Alrighty then, it's time for a Dr. Mundo game, and this one will be half a discussion piece. Because we found out that Dr. Mundo is going to be receiving a rework in the coming future. So, anyhow, at first I just want to sort of tell you what I do in the early game because it's pretty good it's a pretty good lesson to avoid being invaded. Now, Dr. Mundo is someone who jungles at very low health, and Evelyn's someone who likes to cheese kill people. So I'm going to start off with the frog and then go to the wolves, and I'm going to avoid my blue altogether because I know she knows that I'm going to be low on health and she'd want to kill me. Look at my minimap, look at that, my blue side. I'm just guessing it. In fact, I can't even see that she took it in the real game, but in the replay you can see that she just nabbed it. And then she showcases this by invading mid lane, or I mean not invading, trying to gank mid lane. That means she tried to kill me at blue side, and the fact that she sort of took it by the time I was already engaging on red meant she was waiting there as if she was thinking I was going to come back to it, and then she finally decided to do so. So she lost a lot of time. Also, Riven is pretty much trapped. She knew I was coming and she couldn't escape. She's gonna try to make. She tried making a very risky play to try to kill Aurelie before dying. Of course, I had my exhaust and stopped her on her tracks before she could kill my homie. Yes, I like to jungle Dr. Mundo with exhaust because he gets to the point where he just becomes really unkillable, so being able to flash to maybe survive isn't really the big deal for me. Mostly just exhaust somebody and then just beat them to death with my overwhelming value. And that's the thing I wanted to talk about. The reason why Dr. Mundo is likely going to be getting reworked is because he has explosive levels of value. I also talked about it in that other video I uploaded about the reworks, alongside talking about Nunu also suffering through this. If you haven't noticed, League of Legends used to have a lot of old school champions with a lot of value. And by value, I mean giving you or your teammates lots of free stats, essentially artificial gold. Now, some champions still have it, like Janna, or now Ludo's getting some changes to have that. But with those champions, it usually comes with some other form of utility, or it is very, very tiny because it's usually compounded with something else. A lot of old school champions were very definitive in their builds. Like Nunu, his Blood Boil is just a Blood Boil. It doesn't do anything but give stats, and it's ridiculously strong. And it's always been a balance point for Nunu because if it's a little too strong or a little too high and things around the game change to make that value multiply even further, then my god, does it become powerful. And Dr. Mundo is one of those champions. He doesn't give value to his teammates. If not, he just has tons and tons of it within himself. When, like I've explained before, when he gets tanky, he gets damage, he gets sustained, and he just, well, naturally gets tankier, yeah. He gets a lot just from building health and building resistances. Well, not resistance, just building health. And resistances help that health, so yeah. So yeah, he doesn't have to build anything else but something that's very cheap to build, very efficient to build, and he becomes just this behemoth juggernaut of absolute value. That he sort of overwhelms his opponents with gold. Essentially, he wins by pure, just getting bigger faster than everybody else. So in essence, that's been difficult to balance because if the changes in the game, like indirect changes happen, then add to the tank items or something, then Dr. Mundo might go crazy because it just accidentally multiply his value by a tremendous amount. And it can also go the other way around. When they nerf tank items, they just take a massive shit on him because he's very reliant on being able to purchase those items timely. Because if you look at the rest of his kit, it's not really that good or that dynamic. It's very, very simplistic, right? So think about that. That's also where Nunu comes in. Remember, Nunu is like a value overload. He not only gives his teammates a huge ass steroid and attack speed and movement speed, but his ultimate and his E just destroy the enemy's value. It's kind of a sort of a hidden power that a lot of people can't just tell immediately. So I think that's what Riot wants to sort of fix. That's why value champions have basically been diminished or been nerfed or whatever. It's a little too much, and so a lot of players just can't see the value, and it's not very clear, right? And that's why also a little earlier in this season we saw Janna get nerfed on their shield, because that kind of shit, it just makes it very difficult for a lot of players, especially new players, to sort of gauge the power levels, right? If you guys don't remember, I made a video about the best ultimates, and I named Nunu's ultimate one of them. And a lot of people were confused, but if you really thought about Nunu's ultimate, you can realize just how insanely powerful it is. Sure, it can be cancelled, but my god, it just rips the enemy's gold value apart. So just same thing with Maokai, same thing with a bunch of all those champions like that. It's mostly older champions. That's why Riot has slowly been reworking them out or making it less efficient, lowering the values, lowering the spammability of it, etc, etc. So yeah. Either way, as you can see, this game's been going a little bit back and forth. My kill spread for my team is insanely good. The enemies is mostly allocated onto the Evelyn and to the Orianna. There's some good kills on the onto the Vayne, but in comparison to the Evelyn, it's pretty barren. And that's not exactly a good thing, because if you look at my team composition, we have every means of stopping Evelyn. So when it comes to team fights, my team is going to have the advantage. And at the very least, that's what I was supposing when we're fighting. My team is also dying rather often too, so it's a very even game. Also, you saw that ridiculously catastrophic dragon thing. If we had gone for dragon earlier, we probably would have gotten it. Nonetheless, my build is the same cookie cutter thing as on any Dr. Mundo. Like I said, in what I was alluding to as value, Dr. Mundo is just basically piss easy to build and make work. So just build health, build spirit visage, and against the enemy team, I'm not really worried about their Evelyn, because if she focuses me, then she was probably not going to do anything. So I'm going to be building an early-ish Thornmail just to deal with the rest of them. And that's about as dynamic as Dr. Mundo's build gets. Build tanky and then just sort of build a shield for the enemy's most focused damage build or whatever, right? AD usually go Randuin's or Thornmail. AP, you can get Abyssal Scepter. That's about the most luxurious item you can get. But yeah, it's just pretty much simplistic builds. Anyways, we got Dragon, and the enemy team responded by getting Rift Herald. So they're pretty much up and up. They're communicating quite well, I'm going to assume. Although I think one of them started raging near the end of the game. Right now, both teams are sizing each other up, poking at each other. My team comp is very easy to catch off guard, so Evelyn's getting a lot of picks off at random times, although it tends to cost her life several times. You saw her get killed a couple times. Anyways, we're going for the tower, and you want to watch one of the more painful parts here. We get this tower. Aurelius here. Sorry, I'm screwing up. I exhaust the Riven, and then for whatever reason, my teammates get very cocky and decide to dive against all the enemy team, even though there was possibly no chance in hell we would have actually, gotten anything of that. Especially because they have Evelyn, who was likely just hiding behind the tower in stealth. So that's a pretty catastrophic defeat there, because now the enemy team is able to sort of push on us and get some ground. However, the enemy team didn't bother to do anything with it. And as a result, we're sort of able to force them back, and since we stopped their teleports and poked at them, we're now able to push on the second mid lane tower. Now, my job right now, as you can see, is basically a glorified bodyguard. Thanks to the fact that I took exhaust, no one on the enemy team, as long as I have it up, can jump on my carries and kill them in a suitable amount of time. And then I'll slowly just kind of beat them to death. My whole focus in this game right now is to hopefully have Annie initiate on them, and Zyra to follow it up with some good ultimate and some, I forgot what her E is called. I'll call her underground root straggy thingy, and then hopefully my Ezreal just sort of pokes them all to death, because the enemy team also doesn't really have that much mobility outside of Riven, who will probably be no threat, like thanks to the exhaust, and the Vayne, who will probably be forced to focus me and again pretty much waste her time. So that's kind of the dynamic of Dr. Mundo, and I think that's also one of the bigger issues that Riot wants to fix. By the way, here it's just a poor fight. We split ourselves up. I got too greedy chasing after the Riven, and they catch us, and then we just get absolutely ass blasted. Then the Aurelia thinks herself very, very brave, dives against the enemy Orianna, and gets herself killed. So we get pretty much aced here. It's a very slow ace, very slow. But still, it's pretty grim. The enemy team takes our mid lane tower, and then they go for the second one, but we recoup in time. Well, not really. To save that one, but we recoup in time for them not to be able to go for Baron, I mean. Anyways, we're now chancing Baron because we're sort of feeling the sting of possible a defeat. And the enemy team sort of responds very, very slowly. In fact, they don't even get here in time. Annie stops the Orianna. We get the Baron, the enemy team sort of tries to collapse and save her, but the Orianna right now is going to flash over, kill the Irelia is going to flash over, kill the Orianna, and then Evelyn got a little too close, got attacked with the exhaust, and we killed her. Then we gave chase. The Vayne sort of just waltzed in, and according to the alt chat, she wasn't AFK or DC. She just sort of, you know, like this kind of zoned the hell out, and I think she just let herself die because I fucking am dead. That's what I'm gonna assume, because somebody said, oh, someone asked, hey, is she AFK? And they just said no. Or, I mean, she DC, they just said no. That's all the only response we got. So I'm just gonna assume that was the truth. Anyways, as I was saying about Dr. Mundo, one of the other bigger issues with Dr. Mundo is that Riot doesn't really know what to classify him as. They've tried classifying him as a Juggernaut, but he's probably a little too good as a Juggernaut. And he's not exactly a real tank because the most he works as is an aggro magnet, so he's somewhere in between that, between a fighter, Juggernaut, and a quasi tank. So Riot kind of probably wants to give him a more clear identity, because whenever he's picked, it's just because he's overwhelming and super difficult to deal with. So yeah, you can tell me what you think about this. Again, the whole value thing, I'm honestly in agreement with Riot about it. Value champions are a little bit too difficult to balance. They've always proven to be a problem, even as much as I really like some of them, or really like the idea of value, like in Dr. Mundo, Nunu, and Warwick. But Jesus Christ, it's just not fair to the balance team, right? So I'm just hoping they kind of keep Dr. Mundo's identity, and they at least figure out a way to make him work without absolutely butchering him. But I have a feeling they won't be able to do that. Not because Riot sucks or anything in this case, but because almost everything of Dr. Mundo is pretty damn toxic when you put it together in this combination. So yeah. Anyways, you saw we took the Nexus turrets down, and the enemy team actually does get a good initiation on us. However, my team is ridiculously fatty, and they were sort of focused on me, and they fought this really poorly, so my team just sort of got to split them up and kill them. My team would have lost if it wasn't for the fact that the enemy team has no Nexus turrets. So my teammates can just flat out ignore them and force the Vayne and the Evelyn to sort of just chase after them, because otherwise the Nexus gets destroyed. Unfortunately for them, that means that Aurelia gets to have her cooldowns back, and she already started to kill Evelyn, and she basically gets to kill the Vayne for free now that her cooldown's reset. So easy peasy lemon squeezy, we get the victory, and well, yay. Hooray for Dr. Mundo, and we'll see what Riot does. This channel is supported by my sponsors, Crunchyroll and Loot Crate. Check out the description below for links to the websites. Signing up for any trials, including Crunchyroll's free anime trial, greatly supports my channel. Also remember to give the video a like to support the channel, and subscribe if you haven't yet. I've also made a Patreon now, and if you wish to support me through that medium, then I welcome it.